Welcome to this video. So in today's video, we are looking at integrating React Query with server actions in Next.js 15. And this is also going to act as a React Query crash course that we're going to use the same concepts in our React Native application that we are going to be building in the school management application. So yeah, I want to show you the demo of the app that we built at the end of this video. So if you just go here, you can see data is loading, and this loading is controlled by React Query. Okay, and I don't know why it is taking more time. Okay, so we have the data here. And this data is fetched using server actions, and then it is passed into React Query, and then React Query goes ahead and displays it gives it to the UI. So it follows this really nice. We're just going to talk about the architecture we're using for this and why we're using React Query in particular here. And you're going to see that a good architecture of using React Query, it decouples the front end from the back end, and you will have your front end never knowing where the data is coming to the back end. You can use Laravel, Node.js, or even Next.js at the back end, and then you can use any front end you want. So that's the purpose why we are using React Query, and also does caching. It also improves performance of the application. So that's why I have to do this video, because we're going to be using it in most of the patterns we are using in our applications. So if you just look at here, we have the contacts are being fetched from the database. If I click on a single contact, then it triggers a fetch of this contact using this ID. So this is also a fetch. You can also delete this. Okay, you can see the contact has been deleted, and then you are routed back to this UI. So just going to see, then you can create a new contact still using the React Query. So if I just go ahead and let me first copy this image, this is required, and then I'm just going to go ahead and add fake filter. So you can see we have created the Jerome, and I'm just going to say create. Okay, and then you can see it brings Jerome here, and this whole thing is done by React Query in working together with server actions. Okay, and then now we can just fetch this, and now you can see that on the subsequent request, now we fetched Jerome. If I click back, it won't fetch this because it has already fetched, and it has cached this data already on the UI. So as you use, the subsequent request will not be actually they will be cached even when we don't have revalidate. So we're not using anywhere revalidate data, and this is the reason why we need it in React Native, whereby we don't have the powers of Next.js. React Query helps us to remain with the same performance that we have in our Next.js application with caching and all these nice things, but bring it into a React app or a React Native application. So in the next 2 hours, you're going to look at how to implement a step-by-step, how to do CRUD operations using server actions plus React Query. So if you're just happy and you want to dive in, let's get started. Hello, welcome in today's video. So it's really been long since I last uploaded a video. I think it has been 1 week without any episode or any video, and the last week was really hard, and I almost also got a burnout by the weekend. I really had a lot of things to do. and I was unable to make an episode during that time. And the reason why that happens, as you know very well, that at this point YouTube does not really completely support me. There is little money that comes from YouTube AdSense, and to really survive you have to work on actual projects from clients, and to get some money to really survive on, so that you can continue creating content. And that's why I have some updates I want to let you know, that it is so hard to strike a balance on creating content for YouTube or create content for courses, and then at the same time working on client work. It is really hard, and the way I'm just going to do this, I'm planning to actually shift all my work to YouTube. Like most of my client projects, I will be doing them on YouTube. And for that case, I might also introduce the YouTube membership, and at least where you can contribute maybe $5 or $10 per month, so that they can really survive on that. And depending on the sensitivity of the application, of course, there are those applications that are explicitly the client tells you not to really disclose anything, where maybe you have signed in an NDA. If it is that case, then that one I cannot create it on YouTube. But most of the client work, if they don't mind, I will be creating it on YouTube. Most of the client work, I will be doing it live on YouTube. And the therefore some series, if for instance we have the school management system we are working on currently, I will be making it like 2 or 3 times a week, and then the remaining days I'm going to be doing just like the normal work. And that means I will be recording also 1 to 2 episodes per, like 2 times a day. I will be recording 2 times a day. Like I could record while working on a client app, then I also work on maybe an episode depending on the energy of that day. But I'm going to shift most of my work on YouTube, so that you guys don't miss out. Because every time I get into doing the client work aside, I find when the YouTube, I've left it alone for some good time. So I have to really get a way of how to handle both situations. And how I can handle that is really shifting what I'm doing at that particular time, so that you guys know what I'm doing or what I'm working on. It's like the past week, it has been really creating amazing things. I've been reading a lot of things. I've been doing a lot of different things that I've not even taught on YouTube. So I really want to share all that content with you guys, like building local fast mobile apps and offline apps. Some other people even in our WhatsApp group, someone suggested of an Electron for desktop apps, and I'm really looking into that. I'm really interested in Electron.js, and soon you will see the content in that area, so that we can have offline desktop apps. And I have been trying out a lot of things in the past week. That's why I was not really able to create any video, but I'm really back. I'm just going to shift some of my work to YouTube, so that I do more things live. Now, to those ones who might have the applications, there are most students. If you have an application you want to build, let's say you have maybe HR management system, whichever application you have, maybe for your final year project, we could build it live. The advantage is you also learn how to create this. I'm not sure if like your professor is going to go on YouTube and Google and find that you did the same project or anything. If you don't mind, we could just like you pay for it. Let's say maybe 300 or 400, depending on how big the project is, and we do it on YouTube. The good thing is you learn how to make it, and you'll be having also the source code since you paid for that project. And you have also access to the repository, whereby you can make changes or you change some things. Okay, and we can also, of course, I can customize it more for you than the way it is on YouTube. So that is to give you some updates on what have been happening. And if you're watching this before watching the next episode of School Management System, by the time I make the next episode of School Management System, this episode will be already out. And I'm making this React Query video because we are going to be using it in the mobile app as well as in Next.js. In most of the applications, we'll be shifting all data fetching, mutations, and everything. We're going to be shifting it to React Query. And I will tell you the reason why we need to use React Query. Really, in production, React Query performs really very well. More so, the fact that it gives us the same architecture for our web application and the same architecture for the mobile application, like the same way you can install, copy paste the same exact code from the web, and it works on the mobile app. It is really nice, and we're going to use that architecture for both our web applications and mobile apps. This is due to experience after testing out with some things. Really, React Query has high performance, and we're going to be integrating it in most of our applications, and that's why I'm really making this video. Now, this video, as it suggests, we're going to be integrating React Query with Server Actions in Next.js 15, and the same concepts, the way we are integrating it in Next.js is the same way we are going to use to integrate. Actually, we are going to use the same documentation. We are going to use the same documentation to we're going to use the same documentation in React Native. So that's why I'm making this video, and I have already two documentations. I have this documentation. I will leave a link to both of them. This is really like I may say like more detailed than the blog. So I have this one. Okay, I have this one very detailed. Okay, and I will also make a video where I'm using this one, because this one has actually the infinite scroll, implementing infinite scroll. That's why it has really a lot of things. I wanted to make this video with all this, but actually I decided not to include this, not to confuse you. We do this infinite scroll in another video. It will be another video where we're going to implement infinite scroll, and most of our applications, most on the web, and also on the web plus the mobile app, we're going to be always making an infinite scroll. And if you want me to create actually a template for that, I'm going to create a starter template or update this in the starter kit. Actually, so soon I will update, maybe the next episode, I will update the starter kit to use Next 15. And I might actually use React Query for data fetching and also implement infinite scroll so that we can always be starting from the starter kit. And also, I will also do the same for the mobile app. I will create a starter kit for the mobile app, React Native, with Expo and Native Wind, and we'll be using that one also. And it will also be having data table, search, and everything. It is also coming up soon. And so far, if you check in our documentation, you will see that we have actually added something to do with React Native. So soon I have a big documentation I've been working on for the past week for the React Native, having reusable components and all these nice things for React Native, so that by the time we start React Native, we have a lot of resources to work with. So you can see the past week has been really, I wrote a lot of documentations. You will be moving around, you will see a lot have been put in place. And this is all to really simplify. When we are developing, we move more faster, and we have all these resources we can always use in other projects. You can use in other projects, and I'm looking forward to really create more and more. So let's get back to the tutorial, and we are going to integrate React Query. And why do we need to use React Query? The good thing is now Next.js 15, they are not implementing for you cache. There is no any cache that is implemented by default, so you implement it on your own, and that becomes really nice to integrate a React Query with no problem, because React Query is going to handle data fetching. The good thing, it gives us a very nice pattern that you can use both on the web and use also both on the mobile app using the same pattern. And why I like this pattern, I'm just going to explain it soon as we are moving on. It separates the front end logic with the back end logic. Even if I used Laravel on the back end, React Query will still work. That's the amazing part of using React Query. Like, it helps me separate my backend logic from the front end logic, and you're going to see the separation of concern with React Query is really nice. It stands in between. Your create and everything at the backend will remain the way it is, and then for it is going to focus on manipulating everything using what you have at the backend. So it is really nice, and I like it. So we are going to dive in, and let's get started. So the first thing is, when you go back to this, I will also leave a link to this one. And the first thing is, I'm just going to start by cloning. So let me just actually close everything I have here. I'm also going to get into a folder. I'm just going to create this. I'm just going to get in, maybe let me go to YouTube builders. I'm just going to go here where I have this. I'm just going to call this React query, just like this. And then inside here, I'm just going to open this in VS Code. Okay, so let's just go in here, and let's start by cloning this. So I have a starter template. We don't have to start from scratch. I have this starter template. Just simply get this command and just paste it here like this. This is going to clone into this React Query complete, and just simply cd into React Query complete code dot. This one will open it in VS Code, and -r to reuse this same very window. So then just go in here. So you can see next is to run cd and run pnpm. So just going to run pnpm install install, just like this. Okay, this is going to go ahead and install all the packages you need. So meanwhile, as you're doing this, you can see that the next step is create a Neon database and populate the database URL in the env. So if you don't have a Neon, so you can just go here and go to Neon. Make sure you have a project, create an account, create an account. Okay, create an account, and I could just go into one of my projects, which is this one. But for your case, go ahead and create a new project. You can see you can create 6 more projects here. I will be deleting some of these ones, but just go ahead and create a new project. Okay, go and create a new project and get the database URL. After creating the project, it will look something like this. You can see this is my connection string. You can just go, it will give you the one for the one for I will just have like this, and then I will just go ahead and copy that, and I paste it inside my env as database URL. So hoping So the next thing is create.env. So I'm just going to say here .env, and then just need to put the database database underscore URL just here, and then we paste that. So I'm just going to go ahead, pause the video, and I add my database URL so that you don't actually see it, and then we'll move to the next one. Okay, so I've added my database URL, see in my env here. So just go ahead and add your database URL. You can just get this when you create a project on Neon. It will go ahead and give you click on Prisma and just copy the .env, whatever it gives you, and then just go ahead and paste that on the on the other side. So then after that, let's just go ahead and run this. So you can just go ahead and run pnpm. So I'm just going to go here, npx prisma db push, and then after that I'm also going to just go ahead and run this command. So this one will push the schema. So if you just look in what we have in the schema, you just simply add this table called contact, which has a name, email, phone, image, and notes. A very simple this is a very simple model which creates a table for contacts with these credentials. Very simple. And after this, it starts this here. So if you do that, let's go ahead and start. Before we implement anything, let me go here and say localhost 3000. Okay, I'll just go here, localhost 3000, to see the app so far. So you can see here React Query complete crash course. I'm just going to actually change this to this one. So you can see we have, if you just go ahead inside the app, you see we have the page, and this word is originating here. So I'm just going to change this. You can see in the home page here I have the h1 plus this button which links to this route contacts. We are going to look at that in a second. So if I just go back, you can see here, I can just also go and put some padding on this. I'm just going to say padding of 12, and you can also just say text balance. Okay, just like this, and maybe we could also say text center. I don't know if these work together. So you can just like have something like this, integrating React Query with Server Actions, and we have two things here, this and this one. Okay, so if you look, we have the layout. This is a normal file that comes with every Next.js app. The only difference is that we have a toaster that installed for toasts, and then another file we have, you can see we have this as a group, and we have also another layout inside here for the contact. So let's first visit this page here, view the demo app. So when you click on this demo app, now for your case, you will not have the data because for my case, I used the same database that I had. Okay, I used the same database that I had, and that's why I was testing with it. That's why for me, I have some data. Now for your case, you will have your contacts 0 and you'll have nothing here. Okay, now to start with, this whole thing is working actually with the normal CRUD with Next.js. So if you just click on contact, you see we have a form. So let's like move through this. So far, let me show you what is working. So I have this. Let me copy this image, and then I'm just going to use a fake filler, put back this image, and then you can see this contact here. Then I'm just going to say JB web developer, and then create. So you can see creating, contact created successfully, and this routes here. Okay, you can see my name here. I don't know which type of like the here, but you can see the name is here. If I click on this name, you can see I also have a detailed page for this. Okay, you can also delete. So we have already the CRUD. The only one that is not there is edit, actually. So edit is not working. You can implement that after showing you how to do everything. You will be able to add edit for yourself. So we can see that we have the header here, which has this the contact with this search input here with these other icons, and then we have the sidebar here. Okay, that is in the layout. As you can see, if I click here, I come back to the contacts. So let's just go through the app so far. I didn't want to do this like within to make the video so long, and this is not part of React query. We all know how to perform CRUD. If you don't know, I'm just also going to show you within this video how I did this. So far, that's why you see I have a different layout, and the layout has this header here. And as you can see from this header here, that we have the button. This is the one that is having the icon, the menu icon. Okay, and then we have, you can see, I guess this is hidden, so you can see MD hidden. And then we have this the C, and then we have the H1, which is actually the C contacts, and then we have the input, and then we have these other things that are at the extreme end this side. Okay, so that is the header, and then we have the sidebar. So sidebar, if you want to see it, we have here the children. Now when you just go to these pages, like any page, like on the page here, you will see we have the sidebar. So sidebar is not in the layout, is just here within the pages. So we have the sidebar, and you can see the sidebar is taking in the counts. Okay, and that's why it is showing this 4 here. So if we just go in the sidebar, what is it showing? It is showing the scroll area, meaning that if you add more links within this one, it will be able to scroll. Nice. And then we have this button, and we have, of course, this count, which says if the count is greater than 0, then show it, which is showing the number of items or the number of contacts within the database. Now these others are just like buttons. They're not doing anything really. Okay, this down one is here fix. I just want to just create for you a nice thing that you can even use on your portfolio. Okay, so we have this page, the contacts, that is the page here. If we go to the page back here, we have the main, and you can see the main is getting the contacts from get contacts. We are going to look at that in a second, but what it essentially is doing, we have here this header which has the name, email, and phone number, and then here we just simply have a link that has 3 things: the name, this is the initial, then the name, the email, and phone. If there are no any contacts, you will see that you will have no contacts. Okay, great. So if you click in the contact, it takes you to the detailed page of this contact, right? So you can see it is contact, then ID. And now if we just go that, you can see contacts, ID, and then inside here, we're just doing this param thing. We just get the params, and I'm just going to show you that this, if you deploy this, is going to refuse. We're going to make some changes to this one to show you that this is how we did it in Next.js 14. Next.js 15, we don't get the params like this. I will show you in a second. But for now, it works actually when you use it, even when it is in Next.js 15. But when you deploy this, it will not work. Okay, so if you just look at this, we are getting success, and then we have the contact and the error, and then you can see here we put all these on the page. If there is no contact, we return not found. If there is no there is an error, then we go ahead and we put that error there. And then otherwise we have the sidebar here, and then we also put the name, the initial, the name, then the param to edit, and also the delete button with all these other details. So this is a common pattern that we have been using. This is not something that is very new. We have done this in every app I build on YouTube. We know this pattern. That's why I started with it. We know the create. If you just go to the form here, let's go to this. You can see it is also contacts and then new. And then inside here is where we have our form. You can see it is a use client. And then here we have Zod for validation. And then here we have the form inputs, as you can see here. And then you can see we have await create contact, which takes in the form values, which are already an object. And if the success, it toasts this. Otherwise, it will show the error. So this is also in known practice. Okay, you can see we have the form here, and we'll get the item from the form, and then we form an object, and then this object is what we save to the create contact, and then we create the contact. Then we go ahead and fetch. So if you just go to create contact, you can see it gets data, which is this object with name, email, phone, and then it saves this simply in the database, and it revalidates the path and contacts. Nice. Like this is a typical Next.js 15 or Next.js 14 way of doing things, as you can see, and then to return the success true and the created contact back. And then here we have failed to create. If there is any errors, we also return success false plus the error. So this is and then we have the get contacts, okay, which is returning back the success and the contacts. And then we have the get contact by ID. We have all this one, and then we also have delete. You can see we have this pattern of CRUD that we all know how to do. Now, if you don't know right now how to perform CRUD, you can comment in the comment section that you don't know how to do CRUD, and I will make a full video maybe for 2 hours while we implement CRUD from scratch step by step. But otherwise, I have a lot of videos while I'm doing CRUD in very many projects. Just choose one and you will see that you will get the pattern. So this pattern is really common to all of us, and I believe at this point you should be able to do this. Of course, we are having this DB. This DB is coming from Prisma here. This is a Prisma global instance. And then we have also a schema that I showed you at the beginning that is having this. Okay, so this is a really nice pattern, a common pattern, and we know this. So now, right now, we don't have any caching that is happening to us or anything. This is when you create, it fetches back the data. If right now, go ahead and create, it will go create a new contact, and then it will fetch it back here. Okay, if you just see in the server actions, when you create, they revalidate this, they will render this, and then if you just get contact find by this, I think here we have to say descending, I believe. Okay, and note the name, I'm just going to use created at. Okay, I'm just going to update this to created at. I like creating not by name, so you see that I used the name, but right now I'm just going to use created at. Save this, and if you just go back and refresh, you will see the last one goes on top, which is really nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and start implementing the React query. Now that you understand what is going on, we are displaying, we are creating in the database the contact. We go ahead and fetch this, and we also fetch on the detailed page. And when you click the delete button, you can see it on the detailed page. It takes in the ID and it will call the delete. If you just go back here, you see the delete button takes in the ID, gets this ID, and just goes creates this, set, and then you can see await delete and set deleting to the false. Afterwards, it will just push to contacts. So this is also a normal pattern, and we understand this. So what we want is really to change everything instead of just doing this, because this is tied to Next.js right now. It is tied to Next.js server actions direct, but we're going to use a pattern, and this pattern, let me just go to Xcadro so that I can just show you how this pattern is. So we have our Next.js application, and really this can be any other application like a React application, or it can be a React Native application. And so what we have right now is that we have the server actions, which are really coupled right now with our the front end. So this is really tied to this. Okay, so if I just do something like this, yeah. Okay, what is happening? Okay, so I'm just going to also just type here these server actions. So we have our server actions here. I'm just going to do this. So we have our server actions here, and these are tied with our front end. So these, they have direct front end coupling. Okay, coupled. So these are coupled together. You can see that our front end is tied to server action. Like for instance, in the front end, it calls a create function, and this create function goes there to the server actions, and then the server action goes to the and performs the function maybe in the database here. Okay, so if this is, of course it is using Prisma, so this is, it doesn't matter. And that's the good thing, is that this now can use, of course, at your backend. You can use a lot of things. Let me just move this a little bit close. So behind here, you can use a lot of tools as your backend. This can be, let's couple them together. So you have a lot of things that you use at your backend as service, and this can be a really many things. For instance, you could be using Next.js, like the server actions for the backend actually, and then you're using, for instance, what can you use? You're using Prisma as an ORM. You can use Prisma. You can use maybe MongoDB, or you can use right now we are using Postgres. Okay, then you can use other tools for the backend. Really doesn't matter. You can just use a lot of tools here. So then this, as you can see, server action is working with these ones to really supply our front end, which is Next.js. Okay, now the problem with this architecture cannot be transformed, for instance, in any other application. You can see this is based on server actions. So when we don't have server actions, like for instance in a typical React app or in React Native application, we don't have the server actions there. Okay, we don't have the server actions. Maybe we have normal functions, and we are using the backend here. This is not this one. is communicating with a Node.js API. So here the good thing with server actions, if you had, for instance, a Node.js API. So let me just this also can communicate with a Node.js API, and this is exactly what we are doing in our school management system. We have server actions communicating with this, and everything is still coupled to this. Okay. Now, if this of course is an API, this can be Laravel API, can be anything really you want in here. Okay. Yeah, so where does React Query come in? React Query can actually sit in between here. So instead, we can just have React Query sitting in between here. I'm just going to do this. So this one is no longer coupled to this. So now this comes here, and then this React Query communicates with our front end. So this is going to be now the React Query, query. Okay, so everything that the front end wants is going to be communicating with React Query. You want data, React Query will have hooks, and now this can give us the communicate via hooks. So here we can have really nice hooks that gives us anything we want. We can create hooks within here, and this one can give us anything we want. Do you want loading state? Do you want data? Do you want to create? Do you want to do anything? You will be communicating with React Query, and then React Query can communicate. Okay, actually it will be now like this, I believe. This is going to be like this. Okay, so your application, the front end, will request something. Okay, let me just do like this. So when the front end can request for something, React Query will get it and give it back to the front end, but is also communicating with the server action. Now, these can be server actions for Next.js. So for instance, these will be server actions for in Next.js, we call them server actions. Now in a typical React application, these will be just functions. Okay, these will be just normal functions. Just duplicate this. These will be just the functions that are communicating with the API. So maybe we just call them API functions. I don't know, for fair to get a nice name. These are API functions, and this can be anything right now. That's the good thing, is that this can be anything. It can be a Next.js application, can it be a React or React Native. Okay, it doesn't matter at this point. Okay, when you have this architecture here now, we can just like you will see that we'll be doing the same thing. We can use the same API. So these API functions, they will be so using the Node.js API. Okay, they can use the Node.js API. We communicate with the API. It gets everything you need here, and then to communicate it with this here. And now React Query is going to be handling things like caching, because now caching in Next.js might be not a problem, but when you go to a typical React application, it is a problem because they don't handle caching by default, as well as in Next.js React Native. So they don't handle caching. So this can really be helpful to handle caching in other applications. So here, caching, and this is known as the performance. Now, if you haven't made any application in production and you don't know that caching is helpful, I understand. You haven't really made any application in production, because really after testing out the app we made previously for our client, it was not performing at all. It was not performing at all. And the one problem even up now that we still have was the performing, loading all the time. And we are trying right now to refactor everything to using React Query. And this whole concept, I got them from the this Blue Sky application. I remember me sharing with you with one video that I did. Let me just go to YouTube and just go here, JB. Okay, so if you just go here, there is a video that I just made of recent. I don't know where it is, but there is this one where we talked about the open source. I don't know why is this video still having like really few few views. This like has a lot of nice things within this one. Okay, in this video here, where we talked about open source projects, and really it is very important that you watch this video and look at the open source projects that I talked about. In one of the open source projects, I believe, I think I left the links here, we have one that is for Blue Sky. And the Blue Sky is this social media app that actually have an account, I believe. Yeah, this is like for developers really, like this Blue Sky. These guys are using React Native at the for the application, and I think they're still using also React Native for the web, but they're having the base query query patterns and the nice way of doing things, where they're implementing caching. They are using heavily on React Query to do all these things in the application. So I was getting these concepts from here, and you can see it loads really fast, and it is really fast application, and it's using the same tech stack that I use. That's why I was so intrigued to see that I build everything the way they build things. Okay, so that's why I got the concept of using React Query heavily, and this optimizes a lot of things, because caching, which will lead to performance, will just like help you if you're using React Query, not only to base on Next.js, because you're not going to build the application like mobile app using using Next.js. Okay, so I hope now you understand the architecture, that we have whichever backend we have, we need to have some functions to communicate with the actual backend. Now these can be actual functions that we see like sub actions in Next.js, can be really the ones doing the actual mutation, or they can be API functions that are going to communicate with the API. They take in data from the React query or from the front end, and then they communicate via React query to do the actual mutation of the data. Now that you have understood, let's see this in action. So going back here, the first thing to do, let's go ahead and install React Query and its peer dependencies. I'm just going to go here, and I should just copy this like this. Okay, I'm just going to use pnpm, so I'm just going to go in my application just like this. And by the way, I haven't actually tried this documentation, so anything that happens, I'm just going to change it. So just go ahead and install those ones. Really, you don't need to install the dev tools, but I think it's a good practice to add the dev tools. I haven't used their dev tools, the React Query dev tools, but you can even just like install on a React Query, it will still work, but they also recommend installing the dev tools. We already have Next.js running. So the first thing is to initialize React Query. So the first way of initializing it, and the simple way, is creating the providers. So just go ahead and create the providers. So it just simply works the way you see context API or Redux, other things the way they work. So create a folder for providers, just here, and then after you can just go ahead and create this React query provider. So I'm just going to create a new file inside React query provider.tsx, and then inside this file I'm just going to click copy and just add this. So since we already have the dev tools, also the React query, then you can just go ahead and initialize it like this. So you just have the query client that you get from the use state, just like this. Okay. So you just say query client, and then you say use state is equal to new query client, and then this query client you get, you can just simply pass it in inside this query provider. So the query provider and query client comes from TurnStack React Query. So this is a product from TurnStack. If you remember TurnStack, they give us data table, so they are really nice guys, and that's why their products really, they're good. TurnStack table, you know that one, and now we have TurnStack React Query. So we have created provider, as simple as this. Like this kind of creating providers, theme provider, Redux, and everything, they use the same concept where they give you access to the provider, and in this right now we pass in the client, and this is how we get the client. Really easy. And then the dev tools, even if you don't put these, they have no problem. Okay. So next is now to use this, and there is a basic initialization and an advanced one. In this case, we are not just actually putting anything like caching or anything. So right now it is just going to implement anywhere caching. It will be fetching data as usual, like in Next.js. So this one does not add any caching. If you want to add, for instance, caching within a 15-minute caching, and this is how you do it. We're just going to look at this in a second, so we don't need to worry about this. The second thing, add the provider to your root layout. So we just go in, copy this line, and let's go to our layout. So I'm just going to go in here in the layout. Now I'm just going to look for the root layout, this one. Okay, and then where we have the children, simply just wrap everything in this. Okay, so just copy and add this, import React query provider, and this toaster I can just also put it inside here actually. Okay, so we have something now like this. We simply wrap the query provider inside our children. Done. So right now it is working. So before we go, we have to know what or how does React query actually works. So right now, of course, we have our types. All of us, we know that the contact is in this ID, name, email, phone, image, notes created at and updated at. This is we already have this from we can get this from Prisma. We don't need to create it. Now the first thing to understand when you're dealing with React query is that React query expects you to have some things or to have a function. Let me just show you how React query works. So for instance, I'm just going to go down here to where we have the React query, and this is how, for instance, it gets some things. Okay, this is how it gets some things. If you see here, it has const query client is equal to use query client. So this is going to be using the initialized query client that we did here somewhere in the provider. So we did this and we wrapped it entire app. So it's going to be using this query client entirely in the whole entire application, and this is how it uses it. So you have, for instance, const query client, and then it is use query client. So querying for fetching all contacts. You see the syntax. So the syntax is use query, and it expects two things: the query key and the query function. This is really not actually hard the way you think. It just the syntax is really easy. I try to really make it somehow easy. So let me just go here and create hooks. So just going to use hooks for, and then inside the hooks, I'm just going to use, now this can be use products, use contacts, use whatever data you have. So they can be as many hooks as possible. If you have, for instance, use products, so this one will be handling all the products.ts. If you have, for instance, right now we have contacts, so you say use contacts.ts. Okay. RFC, sorry, not RFC, and I can say export, not default, but use contacts. Okay, and I just like to be a function, export function, use contacts. Okay, export function, use contacts, just like this. Okay, so inside here we can start with our first function. So let's say the first one, we're just going to say the get this one, the get contact. Now there are two things that one talk about before we go very far. Okay, there are two keywords you have to understand. We have the queries or query, and then we have mutation. Now the query, this deals with the things that deals with fetching. So anytime you're just like fetching data from whatever you're just getting it from, this is in a React query, this is querying the data or querying for data. So here we're just doing the querying. Every time we are doing modification, so here for instance the get, anything that is under get is going to fall under here. And then this one, for instance, if you're just like modifying, okay, modifying data, for instance in create, update, and delete. So all these actions, they modify data in the database. Now these ones are called mutation. So wherever you see the keyword or the words mutation and query, these two they work in this way. The mutation for modifying the data and querying for getting the data. Now this one, it uses a hook called useQuery actually to get the data, and then this one uses one called useMutation. So this one uses useMutation. Okay, so these two, this is how they work. And this, if you know this one, when we reach doing convex, anytime I will also be releasing about convex, you see, if you understand React query, when you reach in a convex, you'll find the syntax similar and really easy to understand. Okay, so now as you can see, for instance, if we wanted to get the data, we'll just say const contacts query. Okay, const contacts query is equal to use query, and use query comes from React query, and this takes in an object, I believe. Yes, so this takes in an object that takes in two things, the query key, okay, the query key, and also the query function. Okay, this one we have to put a comma. Is it a comma really? Yes, so a query, this one has to be in this. So this works the way you see local storage. You give it a key, This one is not a must that it be contacts. If it is products, this one becomes products. So it is you who gives it a key to use. This key is going to be referenced. For instance, if we say contacts, so everywhere we want to modify or create anything to do with contacts, we'll be referring to this query key. So this one creates it in like the way you see in local storage. The key that is going to be using to invalidate that data or to update data, everything is going to be using this key. So we have the query key and the query function. Okay, query key and the query function. Now the query function, now this is where you plug in any function. This can be any function from either it's a server action or any API function that is going to be responsible for getting the data. So in our case, is going to be, for instance, get contacts. So for instance, we have this get contacts from the server action. If you just go to this, we have this get contacts. Now, the only thing that you need to actually pay really big attention, because this itself is easy, contacts query is useQuery, and then you have these two things, the query function, the query key, and the query function. Very easy syntax really. But the only thing I want you right now to focus on and to understand about this is about the query function. The more so the return what is expected to be returned, because everything now is going to be supplied to this query function, or this query now is going to take the responsibility of giving us back the data. So therefore, we need to understand properly how is this server action or how is this function supposed to behave when it is giving us back the data. So here on top here, I first added the base types. Okay, and the base types is to give you, for instance, server action return types. So I want us to create a behavior, or we create a way of creating the responses that are going to be directly compatible with React query. And how we're going to do that is to make sure that always, for instance, our query responses, the query responses are in this format. Okay, so you can just say get these, actually just copy. Okay, just going to copy from, I think, here up to here, and then let me just go to I can just create types. So you could just say create types.ts. So just something like this. So you can just get the contact from Prisma client, just like this. If we hover on this, I believe it has the same like the other one. Yeah. So you have this like this. Now the query response. Why I made it to be like this, I want us to be able to use it. For instance, if you're using it in React Native or React or Next.js, it remains exactly the same syntax, so that it is very easy for us to adapt to it. So make sure that in your return response, you have something like this. You return back data and error, and now error is optional. This is if things fail, and if things succeed, we have the data. Now, if you go back to our actions, have actions right now, if you look at our, not our create, but if you look our get, you can see it is not returning in the similar way. It is returning right now success, true, and then contacts. Okay, so I wanted to do this because in Next.js this is the way we do it, but we need to actually adapt to this. If you look at the implementation I did here, you can see the get contacts, for instance, get contacts. You can see it returns back this query promise. So if I just go back and I say that this should just return back a promise, and by the way, start putting these things like So if this is going to return a promise, this is going to return a promise, and the promise is going to be of queries response. We need to export these types. So export, and then export export, and then even here, let's go ahead and export. Okay, so if I just go back here, now I can say this will return back whatever you put on the function. You put these columns, this you put what is going to be returned. Okay, I know we are used of saying as, but this is the right way of actually annotating functions. So just like we say, it will return a promise, meaning it's going to be returning await. That's why we say it is a promise. Okay, because of this await, whatever is going to be returned here, we're going to call it, it must be also a promise. So here we have queries response. Okay, something like this, and you can see already if you put this here, they will show you something like error like this, and you can see that success does not exist in the query response. And this is really nice. If we already have these types here, we can use them also in the we can use them also in our a React Native application. And so we can just say here, so it has to return, for instance, in this case here, we just return now contacts. If I return contacts, data does not exist also in this, meaning you have to return data. So all the time, this is going to be prompting us to return the best way for this. So you can see data. And why data? If you go back here, we expect that the query responses to return back data or error. These two things here. So if you just came and said, for instance, here you put comma, and then you say error, and then you say equal to null, maybe you could just say null. Now if you say null, as you can see here, it cannot be it's a string or undefined. So you better just like either leave it an empty array or just don't define it at all. So we can just like do something like this: data is equal to contacts. Okay, similarly here, instead of saying success to false, we can just simply say error, which is a string, and data to null. Okay, now you can say data cannot be null because at this point we don't actually have data. So just simply data to an empty array, because we don't just like if there's no data here, we just simply give it an empty array. And this implementation, I actually just added it here. You can see you have the queries, and then it returns data, and it has returned data to an empty array with an error. So this is the standard way that we are going to be returning from functions. Okay, this is going to be our standard way. Then other things are going to be handled by this are going to be handled by React Query. So after creating this, how do we use this? We have already used this in our hook here. You can see now we have this get function, and you can see it returns back the get the promise of the query response, which is really nice. Now of course, after from this hook here, we can export things. Okay, so I'm just going to completely get these hooks so that we just simply go through them. Okay, I'm just going to go get this, and then so let's start with the first one. Right now, don't mind about these. I'm just going to remove all these first ones just like this, and I'm just going to get contacts just like this. So this is the one we worked on, get contact. We can just like go ahead and just going to comment all these other ones for update and all others. I will just concentrate on only one at a time. So afterwards, we can also just go ahead, and also I'm just going to do this. Okay, so after you have created this query, now we can access this here. Remember, we have query key contacts. Now we need, because this is a hook, use contacts, we need to export the helper functions or some things from this hook, and that's why down here we have the return. So when you return this, that means like these are things going to be accessed from this hook. So return contacts, you can see it is contacts query, and if you remember this contacts query, we have this. It is what we call here contacts query. Okay, so if I just like go back, contacts query dot data data. I don't know if this is true, but this is saved in the data. Remember, what we returned back was data, and then we do data to access this, and you can see if you hover here, you have the data here, and then we have, if this is not there, then we just return an empty array. And then the good thing is from this you have also is loading. That's why the contacts query itself, it has the data, which has the data part that you may just think like the data is actually this one, but this one has a lot of things. As you can see, data query has data. It also has, for instance, is loading and error, contacts query dot error. So that's why this object here is very important from this contact query, and then it gives you this contacts error dot error or dot data dot error. So let's see how we can use this. If you go back down here, I believe example usage with the error handling. So you can see here in your application, okay, in your application you can just go ahead and we use this. So I'm just going to go back, make sure we don't have any errors. You can see here use contact ID. I'm just also going to go ahead and comment this. Okay, I'm just going to go inside here, page. So instead of using this now, we're just going to go ahead and instead of using the server actions direct, we're not going to use now this. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and just say, for instance, const, and we can also now destructure things from use contacts, just like this. And if you see what is in here, we can have the contacts themselves. Now we have here the error, so we can also just get let me see, what can we get? We have also error. So here we just say simply, sorry, we just simply say if error, and then we put this error. Now you can see here error is a string or error or undefined. So instead of this one, is going to say that this can be a React node, maybe, but we can just say as string, I believe. Okay, so we have the contacts and we have the use contacts, and this should just simply work as expected. The only thing that, since we're using the use hook, we have to change this into a React use client, because this is a hook. It only works on this here. Now we can just go ahead and remove this and all these other things that we are not using. Okay, so let me just go and see if this can actually work. So just go back here. I will just go to contacts and we see if we have anything. Now you see async await is not yet supported in the client component because of this async that we don't need here now. So remove this async. Everything should now be okay. So you can see, and now we can also get is loading, I believe. So comma, I can just say here, and now we can just say if, for instance, if is loading, I believe this is loading, then we can just return something. Okay, we can just return a div which is saying maybe loading. So here you can just of course put your own thing here, loading. You can just go ahead, of course, put a React component for loading here. Okay, so let's just like refresh. So now if there is loading, you can see we just want to maintain this sidebar thing, I believe. Can I just do this? You could just like really maintain this in the loading thing here. Let me cut this. Okay, and then while we have the main thing with flex1, I'm just going to add this. Then this one, you can add it in the fragments, just like this. So now, so that you just like loading, within here only. We can also center this. Okay, you can just come here, say flex items center, justify center, and the min height of maybe 96. Okay, so with this, now we have this whole thing really nice. Okay, you can see we have the loading and the dev tools. I guess that these ones you can see here. If we click here, you can see that we have these nice dev tools. I haven't used them, but you can see, really you can see you have queries and you have mutations. Okay, and you have, for instance, right now this one, and then it actually shows you all these things right now. Like, this is too good, guys. Okay, I didn't know they have this. I'd not used this before. Okay, you can see here they give you all the data. Okay, you see here you can access the data. For instance, you have this ID and everything. You can get the data. You have the query and everything that you might actually need. This is nice. I love it. So you can see now we have refactored our code and we are using React query. Okay, this is good. Now I just want to go ahead and also do the create. So let's go ahead and see if we can do create. The only thing I told you here. So just go under mutations. So we have this create here. Just go like this and comment this, create a create contact mutation. So we said if you are creating something, then it is a mutation, and you can see it uses useMutation hook from React query, and it takes in two things. It takes in the mutation function. I'm just going to import this create contact. So this create contact, we are going to see how it should look like. We're going to look at that. And then it also has on success, like when it successfully creates, what should be done and what can be done. When you can do a lot of things here, not only doing this, you can even alert. If you wanted, we could toast from here. If you want, you can toast from here. Since the toasting, we are handling it in the form content, we can just only do this. And what it is doing is invalidating queries. So if I just like doing caching, it's going to go ahead and refetch all the data from the DB. That's why you say invalidate queries, and we pass in the query key that matches the query key we created in the beginning. That's why we need this query key and to remember that very query key. So when you create, we pass in this, and then on success, then we invalidate queries, meaning that it's going to refetch back all this. So now if you look at this, there is a return type for this function. So if you just go back here in the types, you can see here I have for mutation operation, mutation response. For any mutation, we have success, which is a boolean, data, which is going to be contact in this case, and then error, which is string. And you can see these two are not required. Okay, these two are not required when you're getting back, so you can just only return only the success operation. It doesn't return this data is not required. So that means we can just go back to the actions, and we go to our create here, and we can just also say that this returns back a promise, I believe. So you can see mutation response. Okay, and I'm just going to say that mutation response, copy this. We have this in our types. If you remember, we exported this mutation response here, and we can just go ahead and use it in our serve actions. So for instance, I can just do this, returns a promise, and this, which is going to have this mutation response, just like this. And now automatically, if you do that, you see that we get one error, which is success true. This is nice, but then here we need to see data to contact. This is not even required. Okay, so let's continue. So we are trying to make sure that this create contact, it actually returns back this data of this type, success, data, and error. And you can see the same thing in here. We have to return success false, and then the error. And you can see at this point right now we don't have any problems. And by the way, we don't even need for instance here, I don't think we need to have revalidate, because let's go ahead and remove revalidate. We just need to have a function that creates and then return success. Even if you don't need this to return this, you only have success true, this will be enough. And then this will be enough for our use contact hook, this create. And now we can just go and uncomment the mutation here. Okay, so I'm just going to do this. The create contact, we have update and delete. These ones we don't want. Okay, and then the state, this is creating. We also need it, this one. So we have create contact, and you can see it gives us back the mutate function. As you can see, create contact, it gets it from this create contact mutation, which is this function, which returns back or gives back this the mutate function. Okay, and then we also have this hook of is pending. You can see we have this is pending, which gives us is creating. We can name this any way you want, but just know it gives us back also this is pending, and we can just like rename it to is creating. So we have this and this, and now we can go back to where we have create contact, new page. So where we have this, where we put the values, we are also going to go ahead and get these from So const this from use contacts. Okay, and then in here we can just abstract. If I just do this, I could first get, for instance, a create contact, and we can also get is creating, just like this. Okay, I believe this one has to be like this. Okay, so we have create contact and is creating, and at this point we actually don't need this. We might even also not needing this or this. So let me see. We can just get this. I don't know why we didn't capture error, but I believe we can also get the error from this. Okay, we can just always get the error. As you can see, if there is any error, we can capture it, and then we can also render it on the UI if there is any errors. So let's say here, I'm just going to say remove everything, and then here we can say create contact. Okay, we can just say wait, create contact, and then we can pass in the, I think, an object for values. Let's see. So here we can just see down here in this one, we can await create contact, and then we pass in the object. So basically create contact, and then we can pass in the values, I believe so. Okay, so this cannot name string email data, so we simply just, I think, just do values, spread the values. Yeah, so if you spread them right now, you can see the values have name, email, phone, image, notes, like this. So if we spread everything is okay. And then okay, this is also into the try catch, so we can just like put this in a try catch. This one is spread. We could actually just like pass in, I believe here we could pass in values just like this. You don't need to spread, just like pass in the object, and I believe at this point everything is okay. And you can see they say await has no effect on this expression. So meaning like, even if you don't put this, what I'm trying to say, even if you don't put await, it doesn't make any problems, because this await actually in React query, it will do the await because it knows it returns back a promise. So let's go ahead and see if we can use this. Where we're having also is loading. I just want to change this to is creating, even this to is creating, and we see if this is going to work. So the one thing to note is that we changed this function now. This function is now using this create contact, with this is creating from this here. Now one thing that, by the way, this also the error, I don't know if we can just get the error from here. Can we get is error? Like maybe contacts query. Can we just like create error something? And then here we could just say dot, and you can see we have error here. And the why we didn't need this create error actually is that we are handling it here. If there is any error, we just like handling it here. We're just like calling this only. So this we can remove. We have is creating. It is what we are using in the form here. So one thing to note is that we are using this create contact from here, and if you just go to this create contact function, we don't have the revalidate. Okay, of course we could just say put here data is equal contact, which has no problem, but we don't have any revalidate. So I want to see if it is actually going to work without the revalidate. So we changed this. Let me just go back here. Let's refresh to make sure that everything is actually okay. Create click contact, and then I'm just going to go ahead, copy the image, use fake filler, and then here on the image add this, and then create. So you can see creating. Okay, the only thing we don't have is the routing, so just like work on that. So you could even just like handle all this, but they just like leave this one for routing here. So for instance, we could just say after this we can toast toast dot success, and then we say created contact created successfully, contact created successfully, and then we can also route. So you can say router dot push, and let's go ahead and push to contacts. Okay, just like now try one more time. Okay, we can try one more time. I guess we could also reset. Reset. This can reset. I believe it used to come from use form or something. Okay, just going to do this. Okay, so I'm just going to simply try to create. Just copy the image, then fake fill this. Okay, and let's create. So contact created, and we go this side, and you can see it is here. Okay, so it was able to revalidate or invalidate using React query. Okay, it was able to do so. You don't need this one now. The state, it gives us the create contact and is creating, and then we can use these ones here, and this is really nice. Okay, this is really nice. Okay, so we have all these now working really together. Now we should just like maybe try the getting the detailed page. Okay, so right now the detailed page is still using the local one. Just like try that. Getting only what, so we have update and delete. Now we also have for fetching, you can see export function, use contact, and then it is returning this. Let me just go and also comment this. So we have use contacts, and we have also use contact. Now you can see these ones, they don't take in like use contacts, these ones don't take in anything. Okay, these ones, let me see. This one needs use contact needs taking this when you are calling this hook, it needs taking the ID, which is a string, query key. Now if just like going to fetch for instance the contact, we define the query key, which is contact, and the ID as you can see here, and then we get the function get contact, not get contact by ID. I guess we have this get contact by ID, you can just check on it, get contact by ID. Now the return for this, let's go and see the return back here on the return. So if I go back here, the return for a single query response, it needs data which is contact owner, so we can just go single query response. So just go to actions, and then here we can just say this is going to return a promise, which is of type query response, single query response, just like this. And you can see here we just simply need to put the data. So just come and say, okay, this is if there is no data, just do this and the data is going to be, so you can see in the response we have data contact or null, so we can just say null in this case. And then success, if success is true, we return back the data, I believe only the data here. And then for this one, we're just going to return this error and then data to null, something like this. So we have to do these changes. The most important thing, as I've said, is to understand this return, this single query response. It returns data and the error, meaning that error is not a must, but data is a must in all cases. That's why you see here we have to return data, data, and data. Error is not required. It can be undefined. Okay, so like for instance in this case here, so after making this, if we go back to our use contact, now it will be happy. Just know this is the one if you want taking an ID, as you can see, contact and then this ID, something like this, and then we text in the query function, and now you can see in the response it has this select. Okay, select, and the select, if for instance you have in any way you want access the response, even this you can do this even on here. You can also do it on this one. If you want to access a response in any way, and maybe you want to manipulate the response or you want to get anything from the response, then you can use this select. But I believe even without the select right now, we can still access this, and you can see it gives us back data dot response dot data. So this we're going to use this now in the detailed page. Okay, so meaning that we have to change the way we do this, because as you can see, this one is waiting for the ID. When you call this use contact, you must pass in this ID right now. Okay, so and this ID we need to get it from the params. Okay, we have to get this from the params. So you have two choices. either to use the params on the client or params on the this. So what I just going to do right now is to make sure, okay, that this contact thing you see here, I just want to do this to create this whole entire thing right now. So I'm just going to cut this and I just go contact detailed page. So I'm just going to go somewhere in the contacts. I'm just going to do this contact detail .tsx, and I'm just going to say RFC. Just going to rename this to contact detail page, and then I'm just going to paste this. Okay, so you can see we need to take in a contact. Sidebar is very okay, we can just get the sidebar. We need this contact here, so I'm just going to put in contact just like this, and then let's give it types contact is of type contact from Prisma client. And now you can see we have just going to import these ones. Just going to import the link component, the pencil. Okay, then here where we have these params, here is going to be, of course, now contact.id, and then the delete here, just import the delete from wherever it is, and this one's going to be also contact. Let's get a delete just like this. So I'm just going to get this contact detail page, and then I'm just going to pass it in here. Okay, now first change this one to page just like this, then import this, and let's pass in the contact. Now where do we get this? We can just get this from so we're just going to say const. I think we have to use const. We can just actually just the let's see, just in a second, let me just go back to the use contact. So this one, you can see it returns this. Okay, I quite like use contact. Oh, this is just it's a gate, so I believe we're just going to access it the way we got I could just like ask it the usage for this one. Just go to CRUD. I'm just going to say the usage for this hook. Okay, let's just see. And I think I'm just going to update that usage for this hook. I'm just going to refresh here. Okay, let's see. Let me explain. Okay, so is data is loading. Oh, okay. So and then you say from use contact, and then you pass in the contact ID, so it gives us back the data is loading and this. Now I wonder, I think that's the reason why it didn't export or return them direct the way we did from here. Okay, here it returned it really nice, like data is this. Okay, that's why here we actually have to abstract it from this. Oh, okay, so we could define in this format also. I think if we wanted, I could just say create a contact query. Can I just do that? I would want the same consistent way. So if I just say contact query, for instance, and I say it is use query, and then I just cut everything in here like this, and then let me just paste them here. So this becomes my contact query, and then in the return I return the object, for instance, of all these. Okay, because we could return the contact. Can I just say return contact, which is going to be, in this case, let me see, contacts query. So it's just going to be the contact query dot, so you can see dot data, then dot contact. Okay, nice. So we can also just like pass error, which is going to be contact query dot error, and then another one is loading, and then this one is contact query dot I think is fetching. Really, let me see. There is loading. Let me see, is loading. Do we have this? Yeah. So we have something like this. I'm just going to also ask that, can I modify it to this? Can you modify it to this? Like, just want to see these modification, just to have a standard way of returning things. I don't want us to have really different ways. Yeah, here is how to use the modified version of the hook. Now the structure. So now you see you can destructure this, and this. So from the way we are destructuring, data is loading. Oh, so if you just don't, you can destructure it as data, and then here is loading and error. Always, I think that is like the beta version. I don't know. Like this one is you renaming, I believe. Like here you modify and return back what you want. If you just like do this, but by default it gives back the data. Okay, I think that is like more interesting, that you don't even to have to do that, just like it gives you back that. You can comment in the comment section which one is better, like renaming these like this, or just getting this direct from the stuff. Is this like the beta version, or the I think, but I like this thing of us creating the query itself, or the mutation, and then you can return things from this mutation. For instance, you can rename the error, you can rename this. Gives us like to know also how the data is also structured, I believe, under the hood. This gives me to know how this is really working. So if you wanted, I think you could even leave this the way it was. Okay, so let's go and use this and see if this is going to work. So we can just go and remove. For instance, if there is no ID, so right now we could just say if by the way, we could also just say, for instance, const. Oh, we have to pass the ID inside here. So if there is no contact, in this case, we don't know if there is no contact, but we could just say if there is no ID. Okay, if there is no ID, params, and then we can destructure ID like this. If there is no ID, we can return this, and then otherwise, we just only pass in ID here. Here we just need to pass in only the ID, I believe, in the contact, and then we do this inside here. So here we just only needed the ID, which is a string, and then we can use this ID to get the contact. So you can say const, and then we say use contact, and then we pass in the ID, and then here we can just get back the contact, and then we can also get back is loading and also the error, and then we can also just say if for instance is loading, then we can just return a loading component. So we can just do something like this. Of course, we can just copy the loading we used on the page, this very one, the one with error, all of them, and then this. I think we could just like also create a component that does this whole thing for us. Okay, if we wanted, we could do, what am I doing? Simply copy these and just go to the detailed page somewhere here, and then I can just like do this if there is error. Okay, so here is contact, sidebar, just put contact, here 0, and then loading if is loading, then here error. So this error comes as what? Okay, here error comes as the error or null. Let me just see. Do we have this? I'm just going to get contacts.error or contacts query dot data dot. So here we can also just say contact query dot data, then dot. Okay, so this data we have here, it doesn't have types. Then I think it is dot data, then dot error. It seems like this one doesn't actually turn on. Oh, sorry, where am I doing this? Jesus. This is on the response, and then there is this one. Let's say contacts query dot data and then dot error. Yeah, so we can also have this. And does it change the status for this? Yeah, so you can see now it is error, string error, or undefined, and now this works. Okay, so now we need to see this here contact, and because of this is possibly null. Okay, So because of that, the easy way also to do is to do a check, and you say if there is no contact, if there is no contact, okay, then I can just say return not found. Okay, just something like this. Now this will solve the problem down here. Okay, so just go back and see if this has something it can do. Right now we have not found. Is weird. Let me just go back to the contacts. Let's load, and then they just go to one of these ones, and automatically we have 404 not found. And I don't know, are we passing the ID correctly? Like this ID we get in back here, and then we are passing it here. I don't know why is it giving us that it cannot get back the contact. In this case, can we console.log contact? Let's see. So if we load in here, we quickly have contacts, the ID. So what we wanted from this, let's see, you go to this page, get the ID, and then we pass this ID here. Okay, can I just say console.log ID in this page, in this one? This also console.log ID. Make sure this one is use client. Okay, that one might be also the problem. Make sure it is use client. Just want to see. And this one says like 404 contacts. I wonder why it is not even consoling anything. Okay, then just go back here, and oh, also we have not found before even this one. Can I just say console.log ID? Just say here params. I'm just going to go here and I see. I think just now at this point we have to use the normal of getting params. Contacts ID used params.id. So okay, so I'm just going to say here, so the best way to get the params, you can see the route contacts this used params.id. Can I just like go down here? Route used param.id. Params should be awaited before you. Okay, so this is the now the new way of using params. So the params are supposed to be awaited. This was the way we do it in Next.js 14 and 13. Now you can't access the params like this. You're supposed to say, for instance, const. Now ID is supposed to be await, is equal to await params dot. So this one don't abstract it, just like leave it like this. Params dot ID. Now you have to await that. Okay, if no ID, I believe, not found. So we have to make this async, and we also have to change this. Now it is no longer like that, it is like this. Let's go to Next.js documentation. Am I having data anyways? Just go to the Next.js documentation, and then in this documentation, let me search for the params. Scroll down to where we have the page.js here. So you can see the params down here. You see, you get the params, and now the params have this. It is params is now a promise. Okay, it is now a promise. So this is now wrapped inside a promise. So you have to do a promise, just like this. So this is how you get it, and then I don't know why they're saying did you okay, this is contact ID contact. Okay, so contact ID is params dot something like there is already a wait. I don't know why it is behaving like this, because down here you await. Okay, I'm seeing these two like this, and then outside dot ID. Now we can just have this as the contact, and then we pass this down the road like that. So let's see if this improves our scenario. Okay, this is good. And loading, and yeah, so we have it working also. So just go here, we have the loading, and then we have this. So you can see everything we just like doing this, and by the way, it will load the, I think, the first time. The second time you click, so by default is going to be caching these requests the way Next.js does. So if you click the first time, like on this Ferris house, if we click it, you can see it is fetching, it shows the loading. If we go back and we click again, it doesn't show the fetching because it was actually cached. Now we can actually take caching to the next level. For instance, if you if you look at the caching for the blue sky, these guys here of blue sky, they are doing every after 5 minutes. Like you see the feed, every after minutes they refetch a new feed. So you can just like do something like that. In the normal app, I think you can check like every after 15 minutes. I think that is like really okay. So if you want to actually modify cache, you just go back to the documentation here. Okay, we can just go to the documentation where we initialized React query. There is where we have here the cache. So simply we just go here and just change this, and we'll be having data cached for every 15 minutes. But does not mean if you create a new one. So let me just go in where we initiated this in the providers and just replace. I'm just going to comment this one anyways, and then put this. Okay, and now we have the stare time and the cache time. Cache time, is this how they do it in the new version? You can just say go to React query, not to logo, just React query. So turn stack query, And there is also the docs. We can just go to the docs. Okay, so you can see there is installation, quick start, and then I believe there must be, you can read a lot of things here. There is them talking about queries. I always love people to go to the documentation and you see this. Query keys. You can see here use query and then you pass a key, and this they show you how here. What we want to see right now was the initialization. Where do we initialize this? Now let's look at caching and maybe just see how this is initiated. So you can see a new instance of useQuery, and then let's see here. I don't know, like, why don't I have like anywhere? Okay, let me just see this time on these docs. For this one, let me just see this in this one. I think you use GCT. It's supposed to be GCT somewhere, not like that. Okay, so you can see here you can pass in the start time. Okay, I just like want to see where I have. Let me just look at this. Maybe I could just see the setup. I don't know why I don't I really believe it has the start time is okay, but it must be this one, GCT. You can see there is GCT time, but I want to get React hook. I'm just going to ask it, can you give me a React hook instance with caching for 15 minutes. Let's go here and we see like what is going to. Okay, you can also pass in this the cache time, but I'm just going to say cache time, cached data is kept for 15 minutes. Data is considered fresh for 15 minutes. Fed requests will be retried twice before giving up. This is what retry means. I'm just going to say, let me just put back this. And I'm just going to just give it this. I wanted something like this. But they are saying cache time, so we can just come here. This cache time is, it does not exist on the omit query observation something. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, just going to say, but I have this error. Okay, so I think you can see now it uses GCT. So you can see formerly it was called cache time, but right now they call it GCT. Okay, I see a newer version of React Query, this is version 5, cache time has been renamed to GCT. So you can see this, wherever you find cache time in those long time documentation, it has been replaced with GCT. So GCT is garbage collection time property. Serves the same purpose as the old cache time. It determines how long inactive data remains in the cache before it's garbage collected. The name was changed to better reflects its actual functionality. Okay, so we have stale time, GCT time. So this time, this stale time, it is the time taken to consider data to be fresh. So the data is going to be considered fresh for 15 minutes, and then this one is going to be 15 minutes later is going to be garbage collected. Okay, this one, but I think there is a technique between this stale time and GCT time. I'm just going to ask it, should the stale time and GCT time be equal? Not typically, and you can see here GCT time should be longer than stale time, and here is why. Yeah, I knew that typically GCT time should be longer. Stale time determines how long data is considered fresh before React query will trigger a background refresh. So this one is actually triggers the fetch, and this one is the one that actually trashes out. So this one is the guy who gets the trash out and powers, and he gets the data from the new data. So you can see it determines how long inactive data is kept in the cache before being removed entirely. So the good pattern would be you just like make this stale time, you can see 15, GCT time 30. So a common pattern is to set this gives 15-minute window where data is considered fresh, but keeps the data in the cache for additional 15 minutes after it becomes stale. This approach reduces unnecessary API calls during the stale time, provides immediate data access even if stale, while a fresh data occurs, keeps memory usage reasonably by eventually clearing unused data. So this is a good approach. So we can't just exchange something. This is not a must, of course, to do this, but they are considering this as a good practice. So I'm just going to update to this. Okay, now I'm just also going to put these comments. Okay, so I'm just going to put this so that if you just get the code, you know what actually this they mean. Just going to say stale time and also GCT time, and this is going to be a note. Okay, so we can have these three things. I will include these ones actually in the final version that you will find in the documentation in this blog. I will update to put the ones that we have used. Okay, yeah, so nice. So you can see now, if you do this now, they are going to be doing caching. Okay, so now we'll be having caching on our contacts. Okay, here they are loading. I don't know what is happening right now. The only thing we did, okay, so right now we have 6 contacts. I'm just going to refresh. So if you manually refresh the window, it actually triggers a normal fetch. Okay, and the reason why I have this object, I don't know where you have this object for the for it. There is a lot of settings that goes in here. Okay, you can see the retry time. There is refetch on window focus. Okay, so for instance, there is this one. There is a lot of settings that can go here that you can customize. Okay, so I'm just going to say, can you expand all most common settings? And just go here. Can you expand this to all default settings? So just want here to expand this, and you see like it has like so many things that you can reset. Okay, so you can see here it has all the default settings. So you say stare, how long data stays fresh, GC time, 30 minutes, how long inactive data is kept, refresh, don't refresh when window regains focus, number of times. So we can just like do this 3 seconds between retry attempts. Then there is this refetch on reconnect, refetch when reconnecting network, enabled, query starts fetching immediately, network mode, online always. You can see they give you actually this query function undefined, default for usually set per query. So this one is undefined always. Then we have select. So I'm just going to put this one somewhere so that you can see what you can change. Temporary data while loading, so you can see even you can pass in the temporary data while loading. So I'm just going to set, I've just set this or keep this somewhere in the docs, just in case you can just like we can set this. Okay, with all these explanations I would just like do this, but so far this is good good for us. Okay, so now you will be having in your application, does not mean if we create a new one. Let's go ahead and create a new one. Fake field. Let me just go and create a new one. So you can see actually it fetches this. Does not mean that if you're having cache going on, if they create a new one, it will not refresh, or on refresh, if you had refreshed the page, is going to actually fetch. That's the difference between the Next.js caching with this one. This one, if you create a new record, it will actually refetch the data, but it is actually doing the caching. So like this one now has been cached. If I click again, you can see we have the nice caching of Next.js. It remains, and this data is cached for the next 15 minutes, I believe. So yeah, so this is how caching works, and I believe you have learned a lot. Okay, it is now 2 hours since we started this video, but it has been really nice working with it. Show you how to use React Query, and we're going to be using it always in all our projects. So just understand how we did this. If you didn't have, or if you have any questions or any clarifications, I will one day make another video showing you how to use React Query to implement infinite scroll, and to also just like be coming up soon. But right now, just wait for an episode on school management system. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I will see you in the next one.